How you going? It's John, that Aussie metal guy, here with Elijah from Father Before Me, a melodic punk band. You still with me, Elijah? Maybe having a little bit of net issues to begin with. Wait up, caught again.
Sorry about that.
Do not be sorry, bro. I'm the most chill, easy Aussie guy you'll get the chat with. How you going? It's John, that Aussie metal guy, here with Crank, and with that, metalstation.com. Elijah from Father Before Me, melodic melodic punk metal band from New York City. Cheers, man. Chucked in the metal because I love putting that bit in there. Punk, metal, rock, it all kind of sits so bloody well together, man.
Nice, man.
Yeah. Cheers for joining me, man. So first off, can you tell me briefly, those who haven't heard of Father Before Me, how would you describe your style of music?
Well, it's like I grew up as a punk kid, like anything from like, hardcore punk, street punk, gutter punk, pop punk, ska, all that stuff. And like as I got older, I started getting into metal. I think like some of the first metal bands I got into were like Children of Bodom, Blind Guardian, and like Megadeth. And then like, bands like The Offspring had like kind of like this, they have this punk sound, but they have this like thrashy guitar going on. So I just was always like, I still was very into punk, but I also was like really enjoying like shredding and metal and stuff. So I kind of wanted to combine the two and just, overall, like I grew up skateboarding too. So like all the music and skate videos is just like kind of been my influence. And I'm always trying to like find ways to bring both elements of like punk and metal together,
So punk's obviously your go-to and the main inspiration behind everything. Can you tell me a little bit about your beginnings and influences with punk? Who was one of the main punk bands that kind of started you on this journey that you're on now?
Well, there's a couple bands I found out by myself, just like kids in the neighborhood sharing CDs and stuff. And it was just like, like Guttermouth, The Offspring, old Blink-182. And then I had, a bunch of like older people in the neighborhood were like, oh, like that's not punk, listen to this. And they put me on like the Ramones and like the Vandals and like, yeah, just like was absorbing all this stuff. And just, living in New York City, like it's kind of hard to go anywhere without hearing something of like, like skate, just skateboarding in general, like was a big inspiration of all the punk stuff. So like anything from like I said, the Ramones and like Minor Threat to like, Lagwagon, No Effects, and like, The Offspring and stuff like that. So
yeah, it would have been a good area to grow up in, New York, because of over here in Australia, even I've heard about New York having quite a good punk scene over there, and I've heard quite a few cool punk bands coming out of New York. And
sure.
Even now, I've interviewed a few punk bands. I interviewed a cool hardcore band a few months ago called Court Order out of New York. It's dope, and there's just some unreal punk coming out of New York like yourself as well. So it must be a great area to have these influences and kind of influence your punk musical career. And kind of lead into instruments. How did you, what was the first instrument you started, and how did that happen?
So my dad is an opera singer. My dad was an opera singer, and my mom was a hippie guitar player kind of thing. So I was always kind of around music. My dad never really showed me like music. We just always hear him singing and stuff. And like music was just always in the family. And my mom got a guitar one day and was just like, guitar? Like, what is this? So one Christmas I was like, oh, I really, 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 really want a guitar. And we went to Guitar Center. It just opened up by us. And at first we accidentally got me a bass pack. And like, as we're leaving the store, my mom's like, babe, this is a bass. I was like, Mom, does it have strings on it? And I was just like, but like after about like a week, maybe a few weeks after that, I was like, nah, like I started playing with my friends' guitars. And I was just like, guitar was like kind of like how I mainly got into everything. But I actually started playing drums around the same time too. I had like a few people who were like teaching me a little bit here, a little bit there. So it kind of relatively all started around like the same time. So, but guitar is my main thing though.
Yeah, because you play all the instruments for Father Before Me, eh?
Yeah, which is kind of funny. Because I try to like, I don't want to be that guy that's just like, oh, here's me playing guitar. Oh, here's me playing drums. So I tried to like wear a different outfit for each member to kind of give it somewhat of illusion. I mean, I've had people be like, are you guys triplets? One of my friends was like, who are these other people in your band? I'm like, dude, it's me.
I discovered cloning just for Father Before Me. I had to clone myself a few times.
I always said if I could clone myself, I would start a band with myself.
Yeah, and you're talking about your father. Your father, I read in the press release we'd been sent as well. His father's obviously been a real big influence for you
Yeah.
as well musically. Your mother and your father, talking about your mother with guitar, but your father vocally. It would have been
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he was a big influence, not even just musically, just like, he had a very hard, we weren't like a rich family. We weren't like homeless, like we had a house over our head, but we were always kind of like struggling and stuff. Like, like I always getting hand-me-down stuff. We were happy, like, what I mean, for the most part. But just I was always inspired by like how much he always like, even in his later days, like he was always singing, like he was singing on his deathbed. Just like everything about him was music, music, music. And I guess that was the inspiration behind it. And a few times he'd like not really give me a vocal lesson or anything, but I'd be like, oh, like what do you think of this? And he's just like, oh wow, that's not that's kind of cool. But he was a big influence on me, and because like my mom had passed away, and it was kind of just like me, my brother, and my dad. So we had this like yeah, he was my dad, but he was just like we kind of had this like bachelor thing going on where it was like three brothers in a sense, like growing up in a house and just like like I kind of give him a lot of credit. Like he could have just been like, well, fuck you guys. Like, my wife died. I'm out. Like, I'm going to go live my life. And he was just like, he still like busted his ass to like keep my brother and I like, safe. And yeah, obviously we all got jobs and stuff. It wasn't like we were just like, all right, dad, like hold out in the fort. Like, no, we all kind of took care of a little bit here and there, and like I was young and shit too. So it was just kind of like, I had no idea like, okay, what the fuck am I supposed to do? But I that's a lot of influence in my music too. It's kind of just
yeah.
like everything, influences me a little bit.
I'd be so proud of you, man. I bet you as
Oh,
well.
thanks, man.
By meeting you right now, the last 15 minutes we've been talking or whatever, dude. Really, really cool. And it'd be really proud of you. So can you tell me how you originally said, look, this is when I'm going to start Father Before Me. When did you start getting serious about this project?
Well, so I was in a band for a while. I think it was the band I dropped out of high school to like pursue. It was called Jump for the Sales. It was very similar style. Like some people, when they hear the Father Before Me stuff, they're like, "Dude, this is just the same band, but just you." I'm like, "Well, it's me. Like I'm always gonna write music that I feel is what I like." But I was in that band for a while and kind of just, we had there were every issue you could imagine with the band. I mean, it
Yeah.
happens to every band, and not, our bass player had quit, and I wasn't really in touch with my drummer so much. We were just, whether he was doing his own thing or whatever. And I was just kind of like shit, like I don't want to like continue this band without everybody. And it looked like, oh, like I said, fuck these guys. So I was like, you know what? I never liked the name, and like I kind of wanted to do something new, like a brand new branding. And I was trying to think of band names, and I was watching Return of the Jedi, and this like that one moment where he's like, I always used to say this about my dad, like I am a musician, like my father before me.
Yeah.
And then he said the line, I was just like, Father Before Me, Father Before Me. I was like, that sounds really fucking dope. Like
Yeah.
all right, that'll be the band name. And I had all these songs, like all these songs you hear, like these are not new songs. These songs are like shit I wrote, shit I wrote when I was like 15 and
Yeah.
16, like little riffs I wrote, and just things I've always tried to like, just songs that never got completed. I kind of just like was like, all right, like let me take this and refresh it and redo it and do it my own way. And like I've always kind of just been serious about it, but it was just, this was kind of like a second chance to do music like again my way. And I was like, all right, well, it's really hard to get people together and be like, yo man, let's jam. And then it's like, oh yeah, maybe next week. It's like, dude, let's jam. It's like, oh well, maybe next week. And it's like, oh well, I can't do Tuesday. Well, like I can't do Friday. So I was like, you know what, like I play drums, I play guitar, I play bass, like why not just, so I started writing shit in my room, and just, one day I got 5 songs together, like proper. And I went out and recorded. And I went to 2 engineers that I was very familiar with the way they mix and master, and I was like, oh, I like this. Called them up and was like, hey man, like how can I get into the studio? And like I went out there, and it was great because I normally will go and record, like you go one day, all right, you come back home, all right, you go another weekend, you come back home. These guys were like, hey, like we have a hotel inside the studio, you got to come live here for a week and
Yep.
record everything. So I was like, oh, like that's kind of a little scary. I've never done that before, like all by myself and shit. But yeah, no, I went out there, recorded everything, and like just from the ground running, I've just wanted to make this like every mistake I made in my last band, or just try to refine that and just
Yep.
make sure I do everything right, and just like give it 100%, from the start.
That would have been a tough process doing the recording as well. Kind of by yourself, but it would have also been good, I suppose, going to the studio and have those couple of guys you're talking about that are pushing you, going, you got to come up here for a week and stay, or otherwise it probably wouldn't have got done as quick if you were doing it from your home studio as well. It kind of, you got in there, you go, look, I've got a week to do this, and you probably would have put the knuckle to the bone and got
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's times like you can kind of read people. I'm sure like there were some times they were like, oh, this kid's so annoying, like I want to kill him, you know. But I mean, the hardest part was like, you know, for the first 2 days, we'd do drums, and that was fine. You know, I hadn't played drums like that in forever, so I was playing like 8-hour days. You know, I mean, little breaks in between, but like I'd say like 6 hours the whole day just drumming. And the hardest part was like the next day I had these blisters on my fingers, and like that sucks going to have to play guitar the next day. So I was like, oh shit, like I was trying to like heal myself up like quick and just like trying to be like, all right, like make sure these band-aids don't get in the way of me playing and stuff.
Yeah, that's it. And with Emerald, that come out June 21, 2020, and you have the next single, which is due to drop. You've also got another EP. And I've talked to a couple of guys like you that have had other bands and they've gone into doing some solo work for themselves. That kind of the same story as you were saying. They've had a ton of material from ages ago and bringing it forward into this solo work. It's been a quite cathartic and exciting experience. And they've gone, oh, look, I've dropped this, but don't worry, I've got more coming. And by the looks of it, you have a ton more work coming because you've got another EP with Ruby. You've got the lot Until Lambs Become Lions, which is due February 12th, which is not far away as well. So you've already dropped the teaser for that as well. So yeah, what's it like? You're still busy? You still have I know this one probably already be recorded, eh?
Yeah, so I actually it was a little worried me. It worried me a little bit because it was like during this whole pandemic, and you know, I talked to my engineers, Carson and Grant. I mean, those guys are great. Like what the way they record, the way they work with me, they know exactly what I'm going for. And you know, we talked about it. We're like, hey, like I'm never really in the same room as them anyway, so it was really easy to kind of keep social distance and like keep safe about everything and just you know like do it the right way. So I went out there. I already had these songs kind of ready. 2 of the songs are actually songs I wrote back in high school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, one song we had in the old band, and it was like a 9-minute song, and I shortened it down to 5 minutes, you know, to make it a little more commercial ready. It didn't lose any of the integrity. It kind of has more of a story now. It's a little more balanced. It's a little bit more structured, and there's actual vocals on it this time. But yeah, this new record is definitely like heavier than Emerald in many ways. There's a lot of gang vocals in it, like the whole shout chorus kind of thing. But it was a lot of fun just recording it and just moving forward because you know, like the song Until Lambs Become Lions, like there's a lyric about like keeping your momentum up. You know, the song is pretty much like it's from a quote from the Robin Hood movie actually, where it's on the sword. It says rise and rise again until lambs become lions. And it pretty much means just like don't give up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the whole like that's that whole premise behind all this. Like all the music in general is just kind of like, yo, just keep doing it. Like keep momentum, keep going.
Positivity.
Like, yeah, you know, like I mean, I grew up in New York, and that like the whole hardcore scene is about like, you know, like dude, like fuck this shit. You got this. Like keep doing it. You know.
Yeah, I love bands like that. I've done a few bands like that. They kind of sound real aggressive, but you sit there and you listen to those lyrics, man, and it's a lot of hardcore.
It's like we're a brotherhood, bro. Like,
yeah, I know. It's like we're a brotherhood. We're together.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool. So, when can we roughly? We know the Lambs Become Lions, February 12th. Have you got a rough date for Ruby, or are we just holding off a little bit?
So I've actually so the first single for Emerald came out in October of 2019, and I wanted to, because of COVID, I wasn't able to put the next single out right away, so it got delayed till May, and I put the rest of the EP out in June. But this time around, for the second single that I put out, I'm planning like May, maybe June. You know, it all depends on when I film the next video. But I'm going to release the rest of the EP with that single, so it's going to be kind of like a double. You know, I feel, you know, there's a little bit of a die off after I released the second single. When I released the other 2 songs, it was just kind of like, well, you know, you already released this song, like you lost all that momentum with that. Like I'm gonna like tie the momentum together. So it's like, here's a new song, and here are the rest of the new songs, you know. So
yeah, try and
but
get 2021 right, because 2020
yeah,
is a story to how that ended.
yeah, no, 100%. You know, and it was weird releasing it all from home, not really being able to go out and promote. But you know, I've adapted to, you know, being home all the time. So I've made it work.
Yeah, well, it's weird. I've spoke to a lot of artists last year, and it was weird. Like I, not being able to get out and promote, but also there was a lot more of these Zoom conferences and Skypes and phones.
Yeah.
I think I was busier last year than I'd ever been. So it was a weird year, I can tell you that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to 2021. We're going to sign out here, mate. Let you get about the rest of your evening. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Sweet, man. Thank you so much.
Before we do, I'm going to ask for last words, shout outs, and thank yous. Then I'm going to get you to pick out 2 tracks off your Emerald EP that we can crank up directly after this.
Sweet. I got to give shout outs to Alfredo from When Thieves Are About, Carson and Grant, the engineers I've worked with, the videographers I worked with in the last year, Alex and Tom. You guys have been great. And just thank you to all the fans. And, thank you for supporting and keeping me doing what I do. So I really appreciate that. And 2 songs you could play. Melody for Death and Promises. Those are the 2 with solos. So
yeah, killer. Top choices. Elijah, Father Before Me. Everyone go out, grab the Emerald EP, put that into your stereo, turn it up really loud, turn these next tracks up really loud as well. Thank you very much for joining me. Cheers, mate.
Dude, thank you, man. Have a good day.
Thank you.